We're going to be working on the Flet chart today. In the previous video, we prepared the CSV data. We read in the data with open file name. We skipped the header files and we parsed the sales and expenses data from it. We're going to be charting it with Flet chart because our tutorial focuses on Flet in our course. We'll first create a function to create the chart. It'll receive the data. We're using the optional Python type hints. The data was a type of list, and it's a list of dictionaries. It's going to return the bar chart, which is the data type from Flet Charts. It's one of the many charting types available. And we do need to import it. It's a separate package. It's not imported when we first import Flet. So from Flet Charts, we're going to import the bar chart, which is one we're focused on in this tutorial. And there's many other of these modules, such as bar chart group, where we want to group the expenses and the sales under one group for, let's say, January or February, right? So within February, there's two groups. We'll add a simple doc string, which is using these 3 double quotes on each side of a string. And this stop string will help us when we mouse over the create sales chart function in another part of our program. It can also be used to create automatic documentation. So we'll assign a variable groups, which will be an empty list. There'll be another empty list for the bottom labels. This would be the labels of the chart. So maybe under the x-axis, on the the horizontal axis, under that, we'll have some bottom labels. And we need to know the maximum height of the chart, the bar, so up and down. So we're going to calculate the max value using the Python max keyword. We need to get the maximum height or the value for both the sales and the expenses, because these are the bars that are going up and down, the vertical bars under or over a category such as February or March. And then we're going to use a generator expression again, that for item in data. But for these labels, we probably just want to have it like, say, 2K, 3K, not the actual specific value. So we're going to use floor division. That's those two division signs, the // in multiples of 1,000. So it's going to just have that, 3,000, it'll just say 3. And we'll multiply it by 3,000 to get the actual value of the label. So those two slashes is called floor division. We're going to use the Python enumerate, which is a built-in Python function that's going to loop over the sequence. So our sequence is a list of dictionaries, and it's going to return both the index of it and the value. So each item is a dictionary, and the index is, for example, the 0, 1, 2 of the index. We're going to try to extract the month out of it for the x-axis labels. And this axis, to make it short, we just want the first 3 letters of the month. So we first need to extract the value, which is, since it's a dictionary, it's key value. The key is month, and we're going to get the first 3 characters, that :3 in Python. You can apply it to a string, and it'll just get the first 3 characters. Then we'll create a group of the variable name for the bar chart group. Within the bar chart group, there will be 2 bar chart rod, and that is from the Flet chart package, that bar chart rod. And we're going to specify the first rod from y equals 0 to y equals the item for sales, because we have our group here. It's a small group. It's only these two rods. One's for sales and then one's for expenses. And the sales one, we're going to color it a shade of blue. The higher the number, the darker the blue is. So we'll start off with a blue of 400. The tooltip is when you mouse over the rod, so it's that vertical bar right on a bar chart. There's a string. We're going to use a Python F string to show the value of sales. Remember, item is a dictionary and sales is the key. So it's going to show the value of the sales for that particular month. So at this point, we have our sales bar. So if you're only graphing one value per month, you'd be done. But in our case, for each month, we have two values that we are graphing. We are graphing the sales and the expenses. So the rods here is a list, and we can put multiple values. Each value is a bar chart rod for every piece of the group. So there's two rods. The second rod is the expense rod. The syntax is almost identical to what we had for the sales. It's good to practice, so we'll just go through it again. From underscore y equals 0, which is the minimum value, and the maximum value is going to be the item expenses. And the color we'll make it a shade of red. And the tooltip again will be an F string where we have the value of the expenses. Keep in mind that although the CSV file has the numbers as strings, in the previous video we converted the strings into integers for the sales and expenses. And that's why we can apply mathematical calculations to the values for the expenses and the sales. They're actually integers in our data at this point. Remember that we defined groups as an empty list earlier in the program. So to the Python list, we can use the keyword append to add the group that we just created to the end of the list. And after this thing iterates through all 12 rows, excluding the header, because there's 12 months, we'll have the full grouping of the bar chart rods that we can now apply to the bar chart. So the property within the bar chart for groups, we'll send it to groups on the right hand side. That's the one that we just created. The group spacing property we'll set to 12, and we can set the width and height of the chart at this point. So 900 pixels wide, 450 pixels high. In Flet, you can also make this a percentage of the window pane, but for simplicity in this tutorial, we'll just use hard-coded values. Just a word of caution that those hard-coded values, although easy to do right now, it may cause a problem in the future if you, for example, run this on an iPhone or an Android phone, different orientations. But for simplicity, we're going to hard code the value. Instead of calculating the full width and height of the screen, you could also put it as a constant at the top of your program to make it easier to change and also to find. So we'll create the chart in our main function here, and we're going to pass it the data that we've collected, and we'll add the chart to the page. And I have Flet already running. You can see in the lower console here. So when I save it, it'll automatically come up, and we can see already that our chart is looking pretty good. It has the tooltips that we defined as f strings, and we have the bar groupings. You can see that there is more spacing between the individual groups of the bar. A group is one blue rod and one red rod, and then there's a space between the two rods. So we still need to apply the X and Y axis labels. Within the main function, I'm going to add on line 101 there a piece of text to act as the title of our chart. So it's page.add. Within the round parentheses, there is a text element. The fd.text is from Flet, and we're going to pass it a string, the string being monthly sales and expenses. You can also see that it's the default font, which is a bit small. So we probably want to increase the size of the title just for aesthetic purposes. I'm placing commas here at the end just so that the editor that I'm using automatically will put a new line after the comma just to make it easier to read. I'm going to set the size to 28. And the weight will be the built-in Flet font weight of bold. And it's looking pretty good. Let's try to color, see if we can improve it. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. I think it looks a little dark, maybe a lighter shade of blue. It's kind of okay. Maybe I'll leave it like this for now. Okay, I'm going to start working on the totals. So oftentimes in this type of corporate dashboard, there's a title that we have right now, and then there's a kind of a summary of everything that's been happening on the chart. And in the previous video, our business logic did calculate the totals. So we can now put the total sales, the total expenses, and our total profit here right near the top of the table. So we use page.add again. And we'll put this into a container. And the content will be a row because we want the total sales revenue, or the total sales and the total expenses and the profit to be all in one row. This is a simplified data set, but I think it gives you the idea of how to plot with Flet chart and also how to lay out a dashboard for business purposes. So using the F string, we have our total sales, and I put the $ on the outside of the value for sales so that it shows that it looks like dollars. And it's a little small, so I'm going to bump up the size of this piece of text. So I'm still within the round parentheses for the ft.text, and we'll set the size to, in this case, 18. And I'll bump up the font weight as well. The reason that the chart is updating every time I press save is that I started the application with Flet and main.py, not Python main.py. if you started it with Python main.py, you're not getting the automatic hot reload of Flet. And sometimes the automatic hot reload fails, but in this case, especially for like this type of color, it's pretty convenient. I'm gonna keep to this blue scheme because it matches the bar charts. I think if I were to redo it, I would pick a different color scheme. And there are many places to get these color palettes that would be better than the ones that I'm using, like Canva, Adobe Color, Figma, Coolers. If you just type color palette generator, you can find a better palette than what I'm using. All right, so let's work on the expenses. And the color for the expenses in the bar is a shade of red. So it would make some sense to use a shade of red here, so like have some visual unity with the bars. It doesn't look particularly that great in my opinion. Probably should spend more time with the color theme, but let's just focus on making the bar chart, and then we'll leave it up to you to generate a better palette for the colors, and they can use it consistently in your application. I guess the main value here is that I have matched up the total sales color with the blue bar and the total expenses with the red bar color. So there's some visual unity there. Then we're going to look for the profit. We used some business logic in the previous video to subtract the costs, the total cost from the total sales to generate our profit, which is our business logic. And we are generating some profit in our fictional company here for the year. Our chart is coming along. These are the times I wish we had our previous intern who was quite good at color palettes, but I have to work with what I got at this point. So I think I'm going to put like a little border around this bar chart to make it pop out a little bit more, make it a contrast from the other visual elements around it. So I'll make a container and I'll wrap it around the chart visual element. So content equals this chart here, and I'll delete the standalone chart. But once I have it in a container, we can add some padding. So that would be padding on all sides because I'm not specifying a specific side, but the container has this nice little property called border, and I can apply the border of 1 pixel in width around the whole thing to a specific color, and I'll use a lighter shade of gray, so the lower number is the like a lighter version of that color. So gray 300 is lighter than gray 800. And now we have a nice border, so I'm somewhat happy with the border. I think it does really draw attention to the chart, that the primary visual element here. And we definitely need to add the axes. And there's not enough color contrast in the tooltips. But because of the tooltips, the chart, it's still usable even at this point without the X and Y labels. We do need to show potentially more clearly that the blue bar chart rod is the total sales and the red is the expenses for that month. So let's add some type of key. I guess it's called a key to show what each visual element represents. So we'll create a row in the main function. We'll create a container that is 20 by 20, and we'll assign it to a color which is similar to the color on the blue chart, that blue rod. So we're just making a square with this line here that has slightly rounded corners with the border radius. And that will kind of represent this key for the meaning of this color for our bar chart. So we'll have the piece of text next to the square. The square is the container, and we'll say that it's sales right there. So, you know, it kind of looks okay. It's coming along. And we'll create a blank container next, which I'll use as a spacer. And this container will be hidden. There's no color to it, so you can't see it. So that container with a width of 30 is just going to function as a spacing between the sales key, which is blue, and the expense key, which will be red. So we'll create another little square here that's red in color. That's 20 by 20 with the border radius of 4 to make the corners rounded. So that will represent the expenses, and we'll put our label on the legend. So it's the same as the sales legend there. It's looking more and more like a normal chart that you would expect. So it's looking good, but I think I want to align it. So I'm within the same container that I set up previously, the external container that has all the elements in it. And within that container, there's a row. And the row in Flet has a alignment property. The main axis alignment center is, so for a row, the main axis is a horizontal alignment. Now that we have this legend that explains what the different visual bars are, we're going to move on to the left labels. And we've already calculated out the values that we need earlier in the program. So we know that we already have the max y calculated out. So the value for the label will go from 0 at the bottom, right? So at the bottom of the y-axis to the max y plus 1,000 to give it some headway at the top in increments of 1,000. And now we have the values for the labels that we want on the left-hand side of the chart. So we'll first check to see if the value is 0, and then we'll just simply assign it to 0 as the simplest one. Or else it has some value that's at least 1,000. So we'll do a mathematical calculation. We'll using an F string. And we'll use the floor division, those two slash slash. It's going to round it to the nearest 1,000 or truncate it. And then we'll put the string k at the end. So it'll be like 1k, 2k, 3k. And we'll append it to the empty list initially. for left labels using the Python append for any Python list. Chart axis label is from the Flet Charts package, and it's a special data type that will have that visual element for the chart axis labels, and we're going to assign it to the values that we have just calculated out, which are text here. In the main chart, which is the bar chart that we are creating, we'll first add some padding to this, or a margin. To make some space for the labels. So only on the left side of this bar chart will there be a margin of 24, and then the left axis we're going to assign it to the chart axis with the labels that we have just created, which is the left labels. And I need to import, I think, chart axis. And we'll assign the label size to be 18. We'll assign the spacing to be 12. And we'll go up and make sure we import the package. It's chart axis. And we'll run it. And we have our nice little labels on the left-hand side. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. For the horizontal axis, or the x-axis, we've already calculated month_short, which is the list of items for the first column of our data set, which is month, and we're using the first 3 characters. Remember that we had an empty list that we created initially called bottom_labels. So we're going to append the bottom label, which is the shortened month piece of text, to that empty list. This will be the x-axis. The name of the list is bottom_labels. We're going to append it. We're going to add the chart axis label that we used earlier for the y-axis as well. And the label of this chart axis label will be this piece of text for month_short, which we just calculated out. In this loop, we also have the index, which we got from the enumerate function of Python. Now in our chart, we can use the bottom axis property. We'll just place it right below the left axis property. It's going to be a chart axis, very similar to the left axis, and we'll assign a title to the chart axis called month, and the labels are this list that we just created, bottom_labels. And now we should have our the labels for the x-axis. Okay, let's try to run it. And it's looking pretty good. We have the legend, we have the x-axis, we have the y-axis, we have the mouse over tooltips. These are the real basics of using the Flet chart. I hope that with this introduction, you can experiment more with other data sets, other color palettes, different types of fonts, and make a high impact business presentation that you can show off. We'll be building out the application in this 100% free course, Industry Projects with Python. You'll have the code, a bunch of slides there, and more great information. Join us at industry-python.thinkific.com.